would you do it?
So something's new to the department is we are going to have someone representing the certification program in the BACP small businesses, business affairs and consumer protection is on the 8th floor. So they do all the licensing and they help small businesses or new businesses get their license. They do a variety of things. So we're actually going to have Stephanie admin in BACP. So if you're actually in there and you're doing something that has to do with your business license, then she'll be able to answer your questions and help you with what you need to get together for your application. She's not doing an application. She's just going to answer the questions about certification application. She already knows that a person about it. Actually, once you finish an application that goes for audit, it's a possibility that it will be in Michelle Ringo's office. So some applications from Ringo, some of them stay in our office. So and that's new. We'll probably do a DPS letter about that to let people know that she's there and she's available to take questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Sonia.
Good afternoon, everybody. You're here for how to become certified, I hope, today. So I'm going to read, obviously, from text. So let me read before we get to this screen. Welcome to the City of Chicago, Department of Procurement Services, Bidden Bond Room. This is where you are right now, room 103. This is where you could ultimately submit bids for things that are going to be purchased by the City of Chicago. The City of Chicago certification program encompasses minority business enterprises, woman-owned business enterprises for people with disabilities. The department overview, who we are the Department of Procurement Services is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We work together as a team with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. What we do. DPS is committed to providing information, resources, and tools to assist you in your efforts to compete for City of Chicago contracting opportunities. We accept new applications for certification, which is what we're here doing today, is getting information about how to become certified. We accept annual recertification no change affidavits. We accept 5-year recertification applications or continuing eligibility affidavits. Before we go any further, let me just elaborate on that for a moment. There is a new application goes in. Once your firm is certified, you have a responsibility to file a no change affidavit each year. So certification is a 5-year program. On year 1, you are certified. On year 2, 3, and 4, you submit an online no change affidavit. On year 5, if you continue to be certified, and we hope you all do because this program is working for you, you would be submitting online, again, a recertification application. It is not as large as this first initial application you're putting in, but we will be asking you for some of the same information to bring your account and the information in your online account current. So you have a little bit of an overview right now as to why and what the format is. So it's a new application, 3 years of no change affidavits online, and then a recertification application. The fee is with the initial application. The $250 fee, which we'll talk about later in this presentation, is also with the recertification. As far as the no change affidavits you'll be filing, there are no fees associated with those. Anybody? Okay. So we're going to continue on what we do. We contract compliance with negotiated contractual WBDC participation goals. We set standards for contract participation for MWBEs as well as DBE and ACDBEs, assist vendors through our websites, which you all hopefully picked up a card that has DPS, that states DPS alerts on it. If you did not, you can get one on your way out. I'm going to talk about that at the end. I think that's one of the greatest tools we have. It connects you not only to the DPS home site, but it tells you exactly what's going out for bid that week. You'll have this website, I see everybody writing it. You'll have that on the DPS alerts card. It's a 5-year certification program. So the MBE, the minority-owned business enterprise, the WBE, the woman-owned business enterprise, the BEPD is the businesses owned by people with disabilities, the DBE is the disadvantaged business enterprise, and the ACDBE is the airport concessions disadvantaged business enterprise. Today we are talking here about the application for the MBE, the WBE, and the BEPD if anybody is interested in that. But the difference in the M, W, and B is the B requires a Schedule G, which is a form that's required, that it must be completed by the attending physician because you're applying for a business enterprise, to be certified as a business enterprise owned by persons with disabilities. The benefits of certification. Provides visibility. Once your firm is certified, it is listed in a directory which is accessible to the general public. There is a minority, woman, and disadvantaged person goals on the City of Chicago projects, as well as projects offered by sister agencies in which the City of Chicago certification is recognized by these agencies and private firms. We're always doing this. So the benefits of certification. The City of Chicago has a target market program which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority and women-owned business enterprises. This allows certified businesses to take 100% of the pie because there are no subcontractor goals associated with the project. Do you qualify? The qualifying groups are African American, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, women, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. Do you qualify? Are you a local business? To be a local business, the principal place of the business and majority of full-time workforce must be located in the counties of Cook, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. For the DBE, ACDBE, excuse me, just as additional information, your business can then be located within the entire state, anywhere within the state of Illinois. Do you qualify? 51% owned, controlled, and managed by a minority, woman, person or persons with a disability or socially or economically disadvantaged individual. MBE, WBE must not be an established business. Established business means that the gross receipts of the firm must not exceed $37.3 million averaged over 3 years for non-construction firms. Construction firms are subject to the SBA size standards. DBE, and again, we're getting a little information here, not only on the M and the D, so you can realize that there is a difference in the municipal program versus the federal program. For the DBE size standard, the DBE is not to exceed $22.4 million or the SBA size limit for the firm's primary line of business. The ACDBE not to exceed 52.47 for most firms. Some exceptions do exist, but we're not going to talk about those today. So we're now into the application process. Applications need to be submitted online, so you will only be submitting an electronic application. The electronic application is located at www.mwdbe.com, or you can go to the Procurement Services homepage, which is when I talked about the card, the DPS alerts card, our home internet website location is right there. And you'll go onto that page and you can access an application by clicking in the lower left-hand corner, apply for certification. You will submit a $250 application fee. This must be in the form of a money order or cashier's check. And there is no fee for DBE, ACDBE, or BEPD. And you must submit all the supporting documentation. That's all noted in the application. You'll see that as you're going through it. There's also a location on the Procurement Services website where you can take a look at what documents are going to be required prior to you starting your application. But your application is one that you can go in and out of. It's not one that once you sit down, you have to finish it all at one time and then upload everything immediately. You can go in and out. You just have to make sure that you're saving what you've already completed. What we need from you, we need your contact information. And this will all be lines on the online application. The type of certification you're seeking. Are you trying to be an MBE? Are you trying to be a WBE, DBE, ACDBE, or BEPD? If you are trying to be an MBE and a WBE, that can be done in one application. It's not as if, yes ma'am? It's one fee. The question was, is that one fee? Yes. And then we can talk about that in more detail at the end. I'm just trying to give you some idea of some of these because we sometimes get questions that are, well, I want to be an M, but I can also be an M and a W. Can I do this on one application? And the answer is yes. So as I said before, the BEPD, it requires a Schedule G form. You will be putting in the ownership information, employee information, facility information, financial information, licenses for the applicant and the business. If your business is located in the city of Chicago, you should have a City of Chicago business license. So that's something, if you don't have, it's something you may want to go up to BACP on the 8th floor, room 800, and find out about that for your business. We're going to keep going on what we need from you. This is, again, part of the entire application. We're going to ask you about your experience. We're going to ask for an up-to-date, detailed resume. We want to know where you got the experience to not only own, but to run the business that you're trying to certify. Was it, if you have professional associations, if you belong to a marketing retailers group, I'm just using that one. A list of equipment. Again, this is specific to the type of specialty areas you're going to be requesting in your certification, which is what does the firm do? Leases, we're going to ask you for a lease not only on the facility location, but if you're leasing any equipment, we're going to ask you for copies of duly signed leases. We're going to ask you for contract information. We understand if the firm is new and you may only have put some proposals out on the street, if you will let me use that term, then you'll provide us with those copies of those proposals. If you have actual submitted application contracts and you're just waiting for acceptance, approval, and the return of that contract, you're welcome to give us a copy of that contract, even if it hasn't been accepted on the other side yet, because we see that you're trying to get business during this time of certification. Anything that's out there, anything that's pending within the last 2 years. You know, again, it depends on how long the business, is it a new business, is it an established business? We're also going to look for invoices and purchase orders and proof of payments. Yes, ma'am. All right. Okay.
And you don't have that, is that penalized?
No, it won't penalize you, and we will accept your personal tax returns again, depending on the type of business. And we can go into that at the end of this presentation, but hang on to that thought. That's a great question. All right, so that's invoices and purchase orders. The ownership information. This is the organization of the firm. please do not apply for certification until the business is established. You know, is it registered with the state of Illinois? I mean, you're welcome during this time of organization to look at all of this to see what you'll need and what's required and the things you will have at the time you sit down to complete this application. But until you have those things, you can't submit your application. You can start filling it out, but we're going to ask you to provide us with the appropriate documentation for these categories. A sole proprietor, typically owned by only one person, has no legal existence apart from the person, him or herself, must submit an assumed name certificate. Now that's true if you're not doing the business under your own name. If I'm doing my business as Sonia Larkin, I don't need an assumed name certificate because I'm a legal entity, so to speak. But if I'm doing my business as Sonia Larkin Speedy Cleaning, you know, DBA Speedy Cleaning, then I need to go to Cook County and get an assumed name certificate. And that's what you would provide if you were coming in as a sole proprietorship. General partnerships, that's 2 or more people go into business together without any formalities. There is a partnership agreement normally, so that there's something outlined for each partner, you know, and how they will either handle the business or the profits, but there's usually an agreement, so you would provide us with an agreement. A limited partnership. The limited partners are more like stakeholders in a corporation. They are not liable for the debts beyond their own contribution. Assumed name certification or certificate of limited partnership would be required here. A corporation. A corporation is treated as an entity completely separate from its shareholders. It allows others to invest in the business without being liable for the debts of the business. We will look for, if it's a corporation or an LLC, and that's going to be the next slide, we will look at the Secretary of State website to make sure that your business has yearly filed the appropriate documents with the state. It's a website where we look for what is called a certificate of good standing. If you're not in good standing because you're a little tardy in submitting that to the Secretary of State, it would say not good standing. If the firm is dissolved, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, it'll state that. So that would have an effect on your certification at this point, you know, in the application and during the years of the no change affidavit and recertification. So it's important to remember that once you're certified, which I want for everybody, we will be checking at the time we check your year 2, 3, and 4 no change affidavit. We will be looking at the Secretary of State's website to see if your firm is still in good standing and have you complied with the requirements of the state. The ownership information, we will ask, again, this is for a corporation, for articles of incorporation, the certificate of incorporation, the bylaws for the corporation, copies of all stock certificates issued front and back, and meeting minutes. Now, if it's a one-man corporation and you choose not to file stock certificates, I'm just kind of pinpointing this, even though there is a location on the application that states you need to submit copies of those stock certificates. Let's just say you own the company, you just didn't issue any stock certificates because you're the only owner, and you would then tell us you didn't issue any, you're the only owner. But something must be uploaded at all the specific points in that application, and we'll get a little into that a little further toward the end of this. The meeting minutes, of course. Now we go to limited liability company. These are partnerships that have managing members or partners. Suppliers. Is anybody here going to be a supplier? Okay, I'll just go right through her. Well, I'm going to read this. I mean, are you going to be supplying goods of any kind? Well, services is different. No. So a supplier must be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, and maintains a store, warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, articles, or equipment are bought, kept in stock, and regularly sold or leased to the public in the usual course of business from their facility. It's not, and we'll go on, there's a policy, a supplier, distributor, broker policy, and that's online if anybody wishes to look at that. Distributors. These are firms operating as a distributor that are identified as having a direct relationship with a manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods and or products are not available or sold to the general public. And normally if you're a distributor, you have a distributor's agreement. I'm going to tell you it's not necessarily exclusive, but you have an agreement where you are bringing in these products from this specific manufacturer for resale. Brokers. Firms acting as a broker are not eligible for certification as an MBE or WBE. A person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third-party supplier rather than out of its own existing inventory and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his or her supplier and his or her customer is a broker. And we won't certify you as an MBE, WBE if you are a broker. And I think you're going to have a question, but let's hold on to it. Oh, okay. Okay. So now after the applications are submitted, the process can take approximately 60 to 90 days from the day we receive all the documents. So what this means is you've taken your amount of time, you've started your application, it's taken you 30 days to get the application completed, electronically signed, submit. At that point, you're then bringing in your application fee or you're sending it in. If you're sending it in, please send it in by return receipt. Please don't put anything in the mail to us just in the regular mail. We want you to be able to track where your payment went. You've gone out and you've got this special check already, and if you just put it in an envelope and it for some reason didn't get to us, we have no way of knowing where it got to. So the process can take 60 to 90 days when we receive all the documents. Yes, ma'am? The question is the certification for the calendar year or 365 days? It is a 365-day certification. Let's use that term, yes. So if you were certified, if you had just put in your application 90 days ago and you were certified on April the 15th, 2016, your 5-year certification would be good till 2021. Your anniversary date would be 5/15 every year. And your no change affidavit, and it'll be in the presentation, will be due online in your account 60 days prior to your anniversary date. I know it's a little confusing to hear this now, but as you're approved and you got your letter, it's detailed in the first 2 paragraphs of that letter. You'll see what the dates are. And if it's still confusing to you, you'll call into the general number, and there's always an officer such as myself available to explain it to you, as you're newly certified so that you feel more comfortable with what's required at what time. Your application is checked to make sure we have all the documentation. Documents are thoroughly audited. We look at every page you send us. There is, I like to say, nothing that escapes our view. You may receive a site visit. It's, again, specific to what you're doing. If it's an architect's office and you hold the architect license and it's in a business location and you provide us with a duly signed lease and your Secretary of State shows in good standing, we may or may not do a site visit for something like that. But if it's construction, if you are a supplier, if you're doing something that has products or equipment, I'm going to tell you there will be a site visit. If approved, your certification is valid for 5 years. Again, this is where I said on year 1 you're certified. So let's say you were certified on year 1 being April 15, 2016, just passed. So your yearly no change affidavit anniversary date is 4/15 of 17. But you need to submit that no change online 60 days prior to your yearly anniversary date. So that would be, and this is an easy one, and this is why I picked it, your submission would actually be Valentine's Day. So you can kind of pinpoint it with something else, if it's a holiday, if it's a month with a specific holiday, something so you can remember that. The year just goes by very quickly, as we know. And these are the things people forget to do. I hate to say that, but it's true. Yes, ma'am. The question was, does it need to be submitted on that day, or can it be submitted prior to that day? It can be submitted prior to that day. It can be submitted on that day. And if you do forget, there's no penalty for submitting it late. It just pushes back the processing a little, because we process in the order in which things are received. So if your yearly anniversary date was 4/15 and you submitted it on 4/13, the chances of it getting done in 48 hours, I'm not going to tell you it couldn't. That is our goal, to get everything done very, very quickly, very expeditiously, but the chance is slim that it could get done that quickly. So it's your responsibility to make sure that we have it in a timely manner, so that we have that time to put in and the effort to review what you provided us with. And it's, again, it's specific to the application, and we'll review that no change affidavit. There's something here called an expedited process. It doesn't make it expedited. It actually is a shorter application. So it's not expedited for us, it's expedited for you in terms of it's not as much documentation for you to complete on the form, and currently it's in hard copy. This is one of the only things we're still taking as hard copy, and we're hoping to bring this in as an enhancement shortly into our C2 system. I'm using these phrases because these are the things you're going to see as you bring up the application. So the outside application is available to Women's Business Development Center certified firms and the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, MBE firms, currently certified MBE firms. Yes, ma'am. No, the question is, how does the WBDC process work? If you were to be, you have an established business. All right, so with your established business, you are still certified with WBDC? Okay, then it would be, if you were currently certified with WBDC, then because you've gone through the entire certification process, they've done the site visit, they've looked at what you're requesting certification in, which are your specialty areas. They've awarded you specific NAICS codes, which is the system that we use that designate what, in fact, you're certified in. Then, using this outside application, you have to have a current certification with either of these firms to be able to submit that outside application. Yes, ma'am. I don't know. I can't speak to that. All right. Okay. So I don't know, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to state something I don't know about. So now we're into maintaining your certification. All vendors must submit an annual no change affidavit. You must notify the Certification and Compliance Division, that's the division I'm in, regarding organizational changes, business name changes, and ownership changes within 10 business days of the change. So your business is certified. It's not time for you to do your no change affidavit because 1 year has not passed, but you've decided, it's a consulting business. You've decided to move it from a storefront or a commercial location to an in-home office for the time being. For whatever reason, you need to notify us within 10 days of that move. And at that point, you also need to give us a copy of the lease where you live. If it's your own home, you would provide us with a real estate tax bill, which would have your name on it, evidencing that it's your home, that you have some relationship with this location. If you don't, maybe you are renting. This is a rental apartment, so you'd give us a copy of your rental lease, because it's going to have your name on it, and that is what relates it to your certification. All vendors must recertify in 5 years, and we already talked about that. So your certification application fee is due on year 1. Your recertification application fee of $250 is due on year 5. Expansion of services. Come on in. Expansion of services. Your firm is certified in consulting on the onset, management consulting. Somewhere during the life of your 5-year life of your certification, you're now doing IT services because you also have expertise in that area, but you didn't think about it in the initial, or you just didn't want to start the business too big. So you can actually submit an expansion of services request if it's not during your no change affidavit filing period. If you're doing it at the time of the filing of your no change affidavit, there is now an enhancement to our system, and you can request those specialty areas when you file your no change affidavit. But please know, when you do that, or if you were to do that, and I won't go into this in detail because we're not certified here, but we would still require invoices, a resume, a letter from you stating exactly what it is you're trying to expand your specialty areas. It's not simply, I'm going to put this on my no change affidavit, I have consulting, management consulting, and now I want IT specific services. We are still going to put you through that same process as you did when you were certified in the first area. We're going to look at your resume, we're going to look at invoices evidencing that you provided services, your billings, did you get paid, is this something new? So these are all things that are required in an expansion. It would include licenses, copies of future and present contracts, and needed insurance if applicable. These are the sister agencies. These are the agencies that accept our certification. You can go online and get a copy of this PowerPoint, so I don't think anybody needs to write these down. So that's going to be, I'm going to make sure that you leave with a DPS alerts card, which is the Procurement Services homepage. And on that homepage, there's just a plethora of information. Contracts that were previously awarded, which could be something, had you been certified, you could have been a part of as a subcontractor. And that sort of goes to, once I finish this PowerPoint presentation, I have some interesting information for you, for some of you who don't really understand how the minority and woman-owned business enterprise certification works. So these are the top 10 reasons to avoid that. These are the reasons that applications are denied: unsubstantiated or questionable ownership or control, unclear description of critical functions and who is responsible, who runs the day-to-day operations. We need to know that. The company cannot substantiate where startup funds or expansion capital came from. If you're telling me you're going to be leasing heavy equipment, that's your specialty area, well, you must have started with a piece of heavy equipment. So you must have purchased that piece of heavy equipment. So you would have proof of that purchase, and that could be what is considered the equity contribution. If you don't have that, that could jeopardize your certification. Outside secondary employment takes the majority of MW, BEPD, DBE enterprises' time each day. We're not saying you can't work a full-time job on the onset of the business, but the real question is, how are you working a full-time job and running your business full-time? So those are, these are things that you need to consider. And we're certainly not telling anybody to quit their job to run this newly formed business. If the company is not located within the 6-county region, earlier on in the presentation I talked about local business. So it was the business needs to be located in those counties. The point of contact did not respond to requests for information in a timely manner. We receive your application in. We deposit your $250. We look at the documents that you've submitted as officers or reviewers, and we may need some additional information because something is not clear. It could be a question, it could be a request for additional information. If you don't respond to those requests, we ultimately could close that file. You lose your application fee, and you're welcome to resubmit, but you've wasted your time, your money, and all that effort. If there are inconsistencies with the applicant firm name among various documents, if I did Sonia Larkin, Inc., and then somewhere else there was another invoice that had Sonia Larkin, LLC, I, as the reviewer, would question that. Are there actually two different companies? So we need to make sure that the documents that you're giving to us do not have inconsistencies. Problems with contracts: missing, incomplete, not signed and executed by the qualifying owner, or have no corresponding proof of payments. Again, this is if the business has had a few contracts, which we want for all of you. But if not, you're still going to provide us with proposals, an agreement that went out and maybe wasn't accepted yet and signed. If the required docs are not attached and there is no explanation given as to why the documents were not available, that's another reason where we can kick back the entire application. We would normally go out to you via a Q&A in the account and ask you for these documents. And that relates back to the first one where the point of contact didn't respond. We will ask you a couple of times. After that, we will close out the application. So make sure that when you sign into your account, it is the business's email address that you're putting in that, and you're checking it. And that would also be the user ID when you create this account. I mean, if you're going to use your personal email address for the firm's email address, that's fine. We're not telling you you have to go out and create a website, but just make sure it's where you wish to be contacted and someplace that you check, and not just periodically, but daily. Because once you're certified, there is information that comes along. There's a number of things that can be sent out by the system, including notices that it's time for a no-change affidavit, or if we have a question. And 3 years of tax returns were not submitted. Signed, after being in certification for over a decade, I now make sure that I make a copy of my tax returns after I sign them and keep that. Did I think about it before? Probably not. But it would be optimal if we had your signed tax returns, and you may not have them to date. You may have just made the copy before you signed it and sent them, or you did them electronically. But try and think about keeping things with signatures. And 3 years of tax returns is what is required, not only on the personal but the corporate side, for non-construction. Construction is 5 years. So the question was, when I say construction, does that include general contractors? Yes. Because if you're going for a GC code, and we can talk about that later, because when you start to look into this application at the system, when I read off NAICS codes, those are codes that you will choose. When you go into the system to pick the code which best suits your specialty area, please don't pick the top code. We call that an umbrella code. On that page, you will see subsets, and that will have a more detailed description of what you do under that umbrella code. So if you give me the, I'm just going to use a fake number, 541368, and it's trucking or transportation, well, that's great. We know you're a transportation company, but are you doing local hauling? Are you doing interstate hauling? So we need you to really look at specifically what it is you're looking to be certified at the time you submit that application. The question was, if you are only in business for 1 year, would you submit the 1 year of tax returns? What you would be submitting is the business's 1 year of tax returns, and W-2s or 1099s issued. And since I'm going to just say you're not construction for the purpose of this question, you would be still giving us 3 years of personal tax. It's always 3 to 5 years. You just think in terms of non-construction 3 years, construction 5 years, personal and corporate. Now, when you submit this, and I've already sort of broached the submitting the application, please make sure that you're submitting the application fee via some tracking mannerisms, whether the tracking is you and you're bringing that application fee into the city, you're going to bring it here to the Department of Procurement Services, which is where I work on the 8th floor, at 121 North LaSalle, room 806. The phone number, and this you'll again have on that DPS card as you leave. I'll make sure nobody leaves without one. That becomes your bookmark. It's sort of, I don't want to call it your Bible, but it's an excellent hard card to have. Kind of put it under your mouse pad, if that works for you, so that you always have that. Oh, I need to ask this question. I'm in the throes of this application. I need to ask this question. Well, you pull out your card, you're going to see 312-744-4900, and you're going to call us and press number 1. An officer such as myself is ready to answer your question during the business hours of, our offices are open 8:30 to 4:30, but the phones are manned from 8 to 5. And I'm there at 8 a.m. And if you call in and push number 1, you'll probably get me. Yes, sir. Well, this whole PowerPoint is online on the Procurement Services website. But again, I'm going to make sure that you leave with that DPS alerts card, and all this information is there. You just have to remember that the application is online. The application fee needs to come to us if you're not going to hand deliver it, or somebody is coming downtown and they can hand deliver it and get a receipt. It's a date and time stamped receipt. Then you need to send it by certified mail, UPS, Federal Express, and I don't know, personal messenger, however you choose to do it. But make sure there's tracking, because there's nothing worse than you put in your application, you've put the application fee in the mail, and it didn't get to us. Then we're kind of in limbo. Your application can't be, it can't be reviewed, joined with the application fee, and put through the intake process. So now I'm ready for questions. So this young lady had a question before, I thought.
Yeah, my question is, if you're new to an industry, like for example, I'm going into construction.
Okay.
And I'm coming from another industry.
Okay.
You said 5 years of taxing, personal taxing. I want to know, would I be penalized because I'm coming from another?
The question is, and I'm repeating this in case somebody didn't hear what you said. If I'm coming from one industry to be certified in another in my startup business, will I be penalized? I'm not sure when you say that. Tell me where you're coming from and what you're trying to do.
Well, where I come from, healthcare.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get into construction.
Okay.
So my question is, because they don't relate.
Right.
You were saying that you wanted more information as to why you chose that profession.
Well, how? And how you gained the expertise. So this is where your resume comes in. Did you previously work? Have you been doing, kind of a side, have you been working on a side business? If you've been working for somebody in construction, were you being paid if you were being paid, we'll see it in your tax returns, that you've been 1099 from ABC Contracting. Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, because I'm in all kinds of like you 5 years. I know I have like 3-4 years.
Okay.
I can go back because I started doing taxes for people to do on my own.
Okay.
But most of my money came from my 401k.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the reason why you're asking for all these five is to verify where your income came to start the company?
Well, we're asking for it for construction because these are the rules and regulations. We have a 5-year requirement for construction. So you're telling me you started up a business how long ago?
I started 4 months ago.
Okay, so the question is about the 5 years of tax returns and what's required. So you started this for, let's call it a half a year ago. It's already, it's incorporated or it's an LLC. Okay, you have all of that. You have your insurance in line. You have your city business license. You have all of that. Now, what did you do prior to starting this business?
Well, I was unemployed for a little while. I was working in the oil fields.
Okay.
Like I said, I have tax returns for about 3-4 years. But I don't know if I can get that 5th year. What would you, I don't have to call the IRS or something?
Well, did you filed a tax return for that 5th year?
I don't have a copy.
Well, you can, and you know from this workshop today that you're going to need that. Yes, it would be helpful if you reached out to them and said, send me my years, you know, I mean, we're talking 5. Ask them for the 3 previous that you don't have, just so you have it for your record. I mean, they always say we need to keep 7 years of tax returns. So, you know, it's good for you to have it. It's part of business. If you are ultimately going to be looking for a bank loan, they may be requesting it, just because that's the information we require.
So we should be able to get that from, I guess my question is, we should be able to get that from the IRS, right? I mean, I have to call them.
Yes, absolutely, yes. I know you can ask for your own tax returns, your previous tax returns. Yes, ma'am. Okay. 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 Okay, the question is, I work from home, I work at client sites, do I need a business license? There is a home occupation business license that is available to you up in room 800 to apply for it at room 800. I think you can do some of these online, but again, you will have to check on that. Oh, you have? Well, I can tell you that we do look for Chicago business licenses if it's a business that's located within the city limits. Home occupation license. Well, it should go up to 800. Go up to room 800. Yes, ma'am.
So if we're just starting out, and let's say we can do our business out of our home.
Okay.
You know, we're kind of waiting to establish the business and, get some clients. Then once we have that, we would set up an office, a business somewhere in Chicago. Can we start off as home occupation business and then?
The question is, can we start out as a home occupation and ultimately move to a commercial location? A number of the businesses are run out of home. You know, it's specific to, again, it's going to be specific to what your specialty areas are, your NAICS codes. You know, is there equipment involved? Is it trucking? Are there trucks? Where are you parking the trucks? You know, it's, again, this is a general overview to help you sort of think about what you need for your special business, for your application for the certification. If you have specific questions as you're going through this application, you're going to be calling into us and you're going to be asking us those questions. And we're always happy to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
On those list of 10 things that you look for, you mentioned having a full-time job, but what, like for my business, I'm a consultant, and I consult part-time evenings and weekends
Okay.
for my clients. Would that need to be a part of the narrative that you see?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because what we're looking for is tell us the story of the business. Tell us how you acquired the expertise, you know, to go from healthcare to construction. You know, did you take, I can't think of who does it, but there's some of the large construction companies have construction project management classes. There's 6-week classes. You know, that's a help if you put it down. Well, I gained this this knowledge by taking that class. It's anything that gives us an idea of how and why you own and operate this business.
And so is that a part of the application, or is that a supplement to the application?
That's actually a part of the application, because the application is going to ask you for a resume, and the resume is going to be what you have done previously. And this is when I said early on, it should be detailed. I don't need to know exactly what month you quit, but I need to know what year. I need to know what year you worked, or what year you took your construction project management courses. Those are the kinds of things we look for. Because sometimes we'll reach out to those groups and say, do you have record of this? Because those are the things we do. It's somewhat like an interview for a job, because we're going to look to verify that you can provide services, that you can do that job. You know, we may think you're a fine person and you've gone ahead and you've established this organization, this company, but can you really do that job? Can you perform those services? If you can't, you won't get certification. Yes, ma'am. Are we still taping? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I think he was first.
Yes, sir.
If your business is established in, say, Kendall County, how does that transfer over? Do you have everything like a license and everything?
If your business is established in Kendall County, if you look at and I won't go back on the PowerPoint, the business must be considered a local business. The principal place of business and majority of full-time workforce must be located in the counties of Cook, DuPage, Kane, Blake, McHenry, and Will. If you're in Kendall, that application is going to be returned.
Okay, so my question actually dovetails into this perfectly.
Okay.
Is there like a national or statewide certification that we can apply for outside of the local city municipalities?
The question is there a national or statewide certification we can apply for? There are a number of certifications through different municipalities and different groups specific to that profession or that industry that you can apply for. We're only speaking here of the MBE, WBE, BEPD, and also, you know, later, if you're interested in being certified to do federal contracting on the DBE and ACDBE side. So I can't tell you that I can't tell you what they are. I can tell you there are a number of different certifications that are available to you within the state of Illinois.
Just to piggyback on that, the state has their own certification. So you would have to go through the state to get the state certification. And then if you, have you heard of the Women in Business Development Center? They have a certification that's supposed to be like statewide for women. I think they put like NWBE in front of it.
WBDC is a part of the National Women's.
Right.
WBE.
But you can go through them to get the National Women's Business Development certification.
Does the city contracts
We don't accept it.
go through the state?
No.
They don't cross-reference at all?
No.
Like
The city only accepts the city or the county certification. So if you get certified with the city or the county, we'll accept that certification on city contracts, and the county will accept our certification on county contracts. We don't accept anybody else's certification.
Okay, because I work with UIC a lot, and they asked me to get certified,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure.
Which one do they accept? That's the question. I'm positive UIC accepts the city certification because we do a lot of business with them. Most places accept ours. We only accept ours and the county. So almost every other agency will accept ours.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. She had a question back here, Sonia.
Yes, ma'am.
It was pretty much answered. I'm in a similar position where my previous occupation does not correlate at all with the business that I've been running for the past 7 months.
All right, so the business where your previous expertise is not what you've been doing the last 7 months. So tell me what the earlier one was versus what you're doing now.
So I do some modeling, and I also used to work for an attorney as a legal assistant. And right now I'm running an elevator company.
Okay. So how did you acquire the expertise to run the elevator company? And when you say run the elevator company, what does that entail?
I'm doing everything.
So,
Except for field work.
except for field, so you have employees.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you, what
Acquire.
powered you, right, what powered you to change professions so completely?
It's actually not my company, it's my dad's.
Okay.
And he fell ill. He had knee replacement surgery last year. And he ended up being diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. So,
Had to take over.
yes,
Okay.
I had no choice.
So, but as you now being, and title, the title doesn't really matter, was there anything written that evidences that you are now in charge, that you have ownership, or?
No, actually, it's-
Sonia, you probably should talk to her offline so that her business isn't everybody's
Okay.
business.
And we can do
And
that.
yeah, and talk to her like one-on-one to tell her how she could put that in writing
okay.
so that, you know, that's
Does
an
anybody else
offline
have a
conversation.
question? Yes, sir.
Can it transfer over, like from out of the county, like it's in Kendall, but I'm bringing the business here into Chicago?
But where is the business located?
It's currently in Kendall County.
But when you apply for certification, where is the business going to be located? Then it's going to be a Chicago-based business, and the majority of your full-time staff will be located within the counties that are allowed, which then makes it a local business. So you need to stop thinking about where it is now, but where it's ultimately moving to and where it's going to be at the time of certification. Now, if this is going to be a satellite office, then that's going to create a problem. But if the entire business is moving to one of the acceptable counties, so it's considered a local business, then you're good. Ladies and
So
gentlemen?
if everybody could please, if you're not staying for doing business with the city, if I can get you to fill out the evaluation, I greatly appreciate it. If you're staying for the second half, then you can fill it out at the end of the next workshop. And like I said, if you want to ask Sonia or myself any questions offline, we'll do that because the next workshop doesn't start till 3:15. Doing business with the city of Chicago. So it's going to talk about the different types of contracts, RFPs, RFQs, small orders, making sure you keep up with the buying plan, keep up with the bid opportunity list. So it's how do you do business with the city of Chicago? So that's the next workshop.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that, I was here last time and you also reported. Are these available offline? You can watch them anytime, like in YouTube?
Yes.
There is a YouTube presentation. If you go onto the Procurement Services homepage, you'll see a multimedia gallery on the right-hand side, and you'll see, I believe it's the second or third from the bottom of that little group.
Right.
It's right about in the middle of the page, but on the right-hand column, and it's how to become certified. It's about, I've heard it's about 40 minutes, and I think it's Cordell McGarry that did that presentation.
All of the workshops are live streamed on YouTube. So even this class, you can go back and watch it
I
again.
will be able to find like the next class, you're going to record it?
Doing business right. It will be recorded on YouTube, and then the one from today, you can watch it later on today. It's youtube.com/ChicagoDPS. Yep. So all of the workshops, the ones today from the past, all of them can be found on YouTube. You can watch it live, or you can go back and watch the recording.
Chicago DPS, one word, right?
Chicago DPS, one word. So we're going to end how to become certified,
Surveys?
and then
No,
at
survey,
3:15.
But see the DPS alerts?
Okay.
That's the important card. And I'll make sure everybody has one before I leave here. I'll pass it on. You're welcome. Well, we're here to help you. Good, absolutely. And again, if you have questions as you're going through the